very, very, very close to just slipping from what you call reality.
It's a very subjective term.
It is. What is reality?
It's a good question.
My reality is forcing myself week after week to watch movies and to think about things, to say about them, subject myself to the worry, am I good enough? Am I funny? Do the listeners like me? I can't tell sometimes.
They don't.
In this crazy world.
Once
they
you
don't.
accept,
They don't listen for me. They listen for you.
once you just accept you're a failure, you're finally free.
I agree, and that is why I'm doing this podcast in the nude today.
Nice.
I have shed any worry. I mean, one, it's, got a body for radio, right? But two, it's, I don't know, it's freeing. Just let go. Everybody let go.
It is freeing.
Just take a deep breath.
We did not evolve to wear clothes. That's
you're not very profitable when you're naked.
Unless you have an OnlyFans. Unless you're one of those OnlyFans.
And then you're very you're loaded. Making so much money.
Break out the Pikachu doll.
It's actually, I think, like, the payout, curve of, like, earners is, like, pretty skewed. Like, there's, like, a handful of people on OnlyFans who just clean house. And then there's, like, a lot of people who make, like, $40 a month.
Kind of like podcasting. Not so different.
Kind of like podcasting. Not so
I
different.
would kill a man for $40 a month. Kill.
That's, let's see. Do a little quick math for you. That's like $500 a year. Assume you got another good 30, 40 years in you. So, say, we'll call it 40. You're willing to go do some hard time for like 20 grand? Like,
Dude, it beats working. Fuck, working for the man.
I mean, you wouldn't have to worry about rent anymore. So, there you go.
I mean, my rent's way more than that.
I mean, yeah, I'm talking about you being in jail and not having to pay rent anymore because your rent is paid for by society and it consists of a small concrete cube.
I mean, if I've become a full-time podcaster, the first thing I'm doing is stop paying taxes.
If you're in the pen, you're gonna have to like gather influence and prison money and like pay somebody to smuggle an audio interface and iMac into the prison through his asshole. And yeah, I mean, think about the man who's gonna have to smuggle in that audio interface and microphone.
That's a stretchy asshole.
It's like I'm trying to think of something spacious and I just can't even think of anything right now. What's spacious? Gaps in my happiness. Just kidding, guys. I'm actually not sad. I'm so excited. If I could not drop my cell phone, I'm so excited.
Don't lie to the listeners.
I am actually. This is the highlight of fucking my week. Get to bring podcast joy to people literally all around the planet.
It is fun. No, I legitimately enjoy watching the movies. I've learned a lot myself. I get to talk about movies, research the movies.
Yeah, and I've just also realized I watch like extra movies now. Like, if something has any kind of loose tie that I think is worth talking about, if I have time for it, I'm working that one into the lineup too.
I watched so many movies. I watched Let the Right One In this week. Trying to think of what else I watched recently.
Which
one? Is there two? I haven't seen is there an American one?
I
have not seen.
So it's Let the Right One In is the Swedish one, and then maybe it's Let Me In. Maybe the name got changed slightly, if I'm remembering correctly, but there is an American one. They're both pretty good. I think it came out like the same year as The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Swedish adaptations were the American Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Swedish adaptations were big that year. But I might be wrong about that. I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Nice. No, I watched the Swedish one.
I was going to say, though, no, I am very excited to be here. I was talking with a friend. I had a a not wonderful day today, listeners. And I was talking with a friend, just kind of catching up, and like somehow Anthony DeBone's Finger Lakes Grindhouse presents Till Death Do Us Part came up,
Nice.
and it just like it put the biggest smile on my face just thinking about our good friends at Finger Lakes Grindhouse, as well as just how much joy that film
I
brought
think
me.
in the interview he mentioned he was gonna send us some of the first cuts that had
All the unlicensed music.
unlicensed music, and he did send those to us. I haven't watched it yet.
He
but,
did.
I'm excited to.
Big thank you, Anthony, for sending that over.
Can't
we
wait.
love you
Can't
here.
wait.
So no, I'm super fucking pumped to be here, and I'm more pumped to be here because of the film that we're
This
doing
is one
today.
of your favorite movies. Like, you've been talking about doing this one for a long time.
Man, I just love a good cult flick. I really fucking do. It blows my mind that I am the age I am, and I have neither joined nor started a cult yet.
Dude.
This movie like scratches that itch just a little bit. It scares me back into my like relatively normal American life or whatever,
I'd love to be in a cult. I crave that belonging.
or that that worship, literal worship.
One time this hot chick tried to get me to join the Hare Krishnas, and I was like about to go.
Yeah, they do that.
I
That's like one of
decided
the
not
tactics.
to. Yeah, flirty fishing,
Flirty
basically.
fishing.
They send out the attractive ones.
Yeah, I mean, adding that as like one of their regularly used tactics, it's like even more mind blowing that I haven't joined a cult yet.
Or at least gone to like a few meetings.
Dude, yeah, at least committed to a weekend retreat,
It's a good tactic.
But yeah, I have been very jazzed about doing this movie for a long time. It kind of like it touches my Swedish roots a little bit. Even
There
though
you
like
go.
obviously
Is that why you're a giant?
that is why I'm a giant. I'm a giant, listeners. Big dumb oafish giant, bald giant.
Fee fi fo fum.
Yeah, fee fi fo Rogaine. But I just genuinely love this film for, I mean, just so much more than those, very Andrew E. reasons. I think it's visually stunning. Well, I mean, whatever. Here, we got like an hour to suck this movie off. I don't have to get into it.
This one's not as schlocky as
It's
what
nowhere-
you normally go for. It's more the artsy A24 variety.
I mean, to be clear, I do love artsy films too. I do. Like The Shining is my favorite movie, and that is a horror masterpiece. And if you don't think so, you're wrong.
Objectively.
Yeah, it's like it's fucking Kubrick. I appreciate an artsy film. I had a sophisticated, well-read mother who made me learn things and appreciate art or whatever. But like, yes, I do like the schlock. That's what I like to roll around in. That's my favorite T-shirt that you wear every day is schlock.
This one is not so. This one's not as artsy fartsy as some of the A24 offerings. I'll say that. I mean, it's visually stunning and it is kind of highbrow in its way, but it's not up its own ass.
You mean it's not black and white and shot in a
Right.
retired aspect ratio?
Right.
We're doing Midsommar. We love A24. We know you love A24. Dude, like our most commented on Facebook post other than oh god, what was it? Fire in the Sky is the Lighthouse one, right? Like
Yes.
people love it. People will drop in and they will say absolutely nothing about the podcast and just be like, love that movie. And that's
I also want to say, and Gummo. And Gummo.
God damn it.
People love fucking Gummo.
They just liked it because it was funny because you made a good Stranger Things reference.
You don't like it because it awoke something dark inside of you.
That's, I mean, you might be right. You might be.
That's a good one, though.
My God,
But yes.
that's my childhood.
I mean, I will say, like, Ari Aster, it was Hereditary that kind of reawoke some, like, love of horror film inside of me,
That was the first one I'd seen in a while where I was genuinely scared at several points throughout the film, and not just like cheap jump scares, even though they have the right amount of jump scares. There is some peppered in there, but like they're artfully done jump scares, and just like I don't know, all of it just builds up so perfectly.
It's so creepy and eerie, and I feel like probably all genres and just cinema in general goes through phases. But maybe horror had like been on in a slump for a while.
I mean, we got a lot of like poorly written, not fun schlock in the early 2000s, in my opinion. But then A24 came down from above and started delivering very, very high content. At least like films that at least have a horror element to them, if they're not outright horror films. Thank you,
So
A24.
so
You're
I got
keeping me
the
around.
so I got a Showtime free trial for 30 days, and they've got like most of the A24 films on there. It's like a category.
No, we should just
And
do them all this month then.
I'm having a lot of fun. It's also got the Wu-Tang documentary on there.
Nice, nice. Just another like RZA side note, but the RZA's in Repo Man with Jude Law and Forrest Whitaker. It's like, I don't think it did very well, and I'm not going to say it's a good movie per se, but I had fun with it.
You talk about Repo Man a lot, but you're always referring to that one, or are you ever referring to the one with Emilio Estevez and Harry Dean Stanton?
I don't think I've seen that one, but I do also
Repo Man.
I refer to Repo the Genetic Opera a lot as well, starring Paris Hilton. It's like actually the only name I can think of that's in that movie right off the top of my head. Her face comes off in it. Just saying.
Yes. No, I remember that. I remember the sex tape.
Yeah, the sex tape as well.
Sucks that she wasn't able to turn that into like a whole career.
Into
like Kim
Kardashian money, but she didn't need Kardashian money. She already has Kardashian money.
That's a good point.
Except for the one that's like literally a billionaire because fucking people gave her $1 billion collectively to her GoFundMe or whatever. That is an actual story about humanity that makes me deeply sad. Like that, there were hardworking people in the world who donated enough money to make her a billionaire, and she was already stupid rich to begin with. Like,
And then she used that money to just transform herself into a totally different looking person.
I think it's Kylie. I think that's the one. I don't know. I don't know any of the Kardashians.
I don't actually know. I just know that Paris Hilton's sex tape was far superior to Kim Kardashian's, and I stand by that.
This is gonna really blow your mind. I've seen neither.
What?
I know.
I had a high school history teacher who was like, who asked the class if anyone
Have you guys
had
seen it, dude?
Yeah, and he said, "Yeah, it's fuzzy, right?"
Honestly, I have like a vague memory of a teacher making like some kind of reference to it as well, which was like probably more inappropriate than I realized at the time.
I mean, that's
At
one
the
way
time
to
it's
try
like,
to
haha,
connect.
teachers talking about sex tape. That's hilarious. But like now as somebody who's got like a lot of friends with kids, it's like that fucking teacher talked about what? Like,
It's a little inappropriate.
it's a little inappropriate.
But I did agree with his assessment. It was a little blurry.
Well, they just didn't have camera tech like we do now. Got to keep that
That's
in mind.
true.
Not pocket camera tech.
And at that time, they were all doing night vision, which, the fuck is that?
That was the move back then. It's because with the lights off, it's harder to see the fucking camera that you've like taped a red or put tape over the red dot or whatever.
Anywho, Midsommar's awesome. Loved rewatching this film. I'd only seen it once in the theaters prior. Long movie. Good
2
movie.
hours and 40 minutes, I believe. Somewhere
But
in that range.
I savored it the entire time.
No, 2 hours and 28 minutes. So, sorry.
The director's cut is 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Ooh, maybe that's what I watched.
With deleted scenes that were originally going to give it an NC-17 rating.
Dude, what?
which
I fucked up. Why didn't I watch the director's? Is the director's cut available?
it's available.
Damn
Which
it!
even in the R-rated version that I watched, it's pretty graphic. Like they bust that dude's head open like a fucking melon and
Yeah,
other things.
we'll get to
amongst other
the
things.
mallets.
God, I love the mallets.
There's a lot of mallets in this movie. It's not just that one either. But we'll get back to that.
The crazy thing about Ari Aster is like he's pretty young for being such kind of a prolific. I mean, he's only made 2 feature films and he's working on his 3rd currently.
Yeah, but they've both been.
But they're both so good.
They've been, yeah, as I was gonna say, critically acclaimed.
He was born in 1986, which doesn't make him that far removed from our age.
No.
And he's so much more successful.
Yeah, so just throw some numbers. The budget for the film was $9 million. Its box office was 48. I just gave Amazon $4 more to watch the not director's cut.
Should have got that Showtime free trial, bro.
So I think we can call it, even despite it being a what I would call a fairly niche movie. Like, it doesn't have the Avenger or Top Gun audience kind of spectrum to work with. It was still a commercial success and continues to be one by all accounts. But really, just like whatever, fuck the money. Critically, almost everybody loves this film. I guess there were some mixed reviews when it came out, but it's like already, in my opinion, bleeding into what will inevitably, like without a doubt, be a cult classic. Like it's what I'm going to be showing my kid and his fucking no good friends this, when I've had too much whiskey to drink, and it's like, you guys got to watch this. This is the greatest movie ever. They're going to be
I'm going to send you to an island and you're going to be a breeder.
No, they're going to be doing whatever's cool at that point. Maybe it'll all come back around and they'll be like into woodworking or something. Who knows?
I mean, I would call that a commercial success for sure. I mean, it had a worldwide theatrical release. I actually saw it when I was in Taiwan, but he has an indie filmmaker approach,
Yeah. Yeah, this is coming off the success of Hereditary, which, we already talked about some earlier. And it's such a fucking good movie.
Which was huge. I probably even prefer that one, to be honest. But I think that I don't know.
I think that Hereditary is like more gut-wrenching and scary in my mind. This one, it's kind of fun. Kind of fun. And
yeah, it is. And I mean, apparently in Sweden, they even view this as a black comedy. And even he's said it has like some comedic elements, which it has none on the surface.
I mean, I've seen this film total now probably 4 times, 5 times, which is a lot for a movie that's only been out, for 3 years. But every time I watch it, I find myself laughing more at it. And I laugh at horror movies in general. Like I have a good chortle, but like... we'll get to the end, but like the end kind of makes me chuckle. Like just how the last segment of it, we'll get there. Sure. We'll get there.
And the mallet. I also laughed when they got the giant mallet.
I mean,
I might be fucked up though.
What I really enjoyed was I saw it in theaters when it came out with my friend Kaywood, who loves horror movies. He's just as twisted as I am, and my friend Jordan. Who also, not podcast Jordan, another Jordan, is down for a horror movie, and like my girlfriend at the time. And her reaction to everything was just so much different than the guys in the group. Like,
I bet.
Dude, the mallet scene, like all of us were just like, fuck yeah. Like,
it's not a great like date movie. Definitely not a first date movie.
I've made that mistake before and gone on a number of dates. To horror movies is like not necessarily first dates, but like I'm allowed to pick the movie and I pick the fucking strangers or whatever, and
right.
The date spends a lot of the evening not having a great time.
Yeah, when I was 14, I saw Taxi Driver, and it was like my favorite movie for a while, and I insisted on like showing that to girls that I was interested in as a 14-year-old, and turns out 14-year-old girls don't like that movie very much.
Yeah, another kind of like worse gaff almost, but like in high school when I was like, like an edgy teenager or whatever, I thought it was a good idea to show a girl I was interested in Requiem for a Dream, which is like
That's rough.
that's about as like bad of a choice as you can make in retrograde. But anyways, um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get a big kick out of this film. Like it tickles my funny bones, especially like after you've seen it and you know like where the scary parts are. You can just kind of like you can absorb the film through a different lens.
And all the little details. There's so many like little details in this movie that are just planned out perfectly, and it kind of deserves a second viewing. It needs that to catch them all.
It absolutely does. Some other things I like about the movie, just kind of like outright, that is not like it's not. We're going to spoil the shit out of this, but this isn't even a spoiler because it happens effectively in the first 5 minutes. But like the whole film, even with all of its intense, intense horror and crazy cult shit, like the most horrifying thing for our protagonist, our main protagonist, happens in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Like,
Yeah.
everything else from there is more. It ends well for her. Spoiler, but like it's a cakewalk compared to what is like and what would be almost anyone's worst day of their lives. So I think that's like a very clever juxtaposition to like what we see so often in horror movies, where like it's all about how awful the experience is, and the experience is undoubtedly awful for many of the cast of the film, but like for our main girl, for our final girl, like it's the worst has already happened,
Right.
Um,
She's even kind of like celebrated and like put on a pedestal in the most of the film.
at least the back, well, yeah, pretty much all of it.
Nothing bad really happens to her beyond. Well, I guess getting into the film, I guess Ari Aster, who by the way, tie-in from Eraserhead, graduated from the AFI conservatory just like David Lynch.
Very cool, very cool.
But he was actually coming off the tail end of a breakup when he started writing this film, and it is essentially a breakup movie. The main character, Danny, well, first she suffers this horrible family tragedy at the beginning, but then it's also about her breaking up with this guy, and the whole film is like a giant extended metaphor about that, really, set in the genre of folk horror.
Yeah, well, like it's got it's got a little dash of cultism thrown in there, a little dash of fairy tale kind of like storytelling, and then a little dash of some fucking Scandinavians. I mean, what else do you want? The tragedy that she suffers at the beginning, which I think is just for context important to say at least once, is her bipolar sister, in like a psychotic break, murder suicides herself and Danny's parents. So like all at once she loses all of her entire family. Hence, kind of like my earlier assessment, like that is as bad as it comes, pretty much.
And I guess I was kind of trying to tie that in with the breakup metaphor and all the, that theme running throughout the movie. But I guess it's that idea that when you get out of a serious kind of codependent relationship, you think that the world has ended. Like, it's effectively, you feel like you've lost everything. When maybe in most cases, you haven't lost everything. You've lost one thing.
It might feel like it's everything, but yeah, if you're going through a rough breakup, I mean, I went through a bad breakup a couple of years ago. You ask my good buddy Braden.
You caused that, Andrew. That
I
was 100% your fault.
I usually do cause them, but uh, I
We
usually
don't want to turn this into a therapy session, but Andrew might need it.
That's what happens when I don't have beer for the podcast. I get real sad. Um, no, but like, if you are going through a bad breakup, there is light at the end of the tunnel, man. As Braden said, you just lost one thing. Dude, yeah, if the breakup makes you feel like that, then like, I don't know. I feel like it's indicative of like some other shit probably being unhealthy there too.
My advice to my friends who are always going through that, it's like, you lost one thing. You better hold on to the other things that you have, because it can just like go into a snowball effect where you just actually lose everything. Like next it's the job or whatever.
He literally gave me this exact same speech. It's like, Andrew, you have to hold on. Like, don't let anything else slip through your fingers. You're so close as is. It was, but really, though, there's more to live for than your significant other. You know,
fuck them. They didn't deserve you.
or ex-significant other. I mean, if you have a significant other, I guess you should like live every day for them or whatever. But
She didn't deserve you, Andrew.
thanks. That was nice.
But yeah, this film, that's what it's about. He was going through a breakup at a time, and I was watching some interviews with him, and he even said he hopes this is like the kind of film that people go back to again and again when they inevitably have their heart broken over and over throughout their life.
Yeah, it's like the folk horror version of Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Haven't seen that one.
Have you really not?
It's just not my bag.
Dude, come on. Forgetting Sarah Marshall is like the perfect dude breakup movie.
It's not my thing. I like
What, you don't like Judd Apatow? You
I
fucking
kind
too
of
good
like
for
high
Judd?
fidelity. High fidelity. I don't really like Judd Apatow that much, honestly. But
Like Freaks and Geeks or nothing?
I like Freaks and Geeks. I like some of his stuff.
Yeah, you should watch Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
I like
It's
High
pretty good.
Fidelity. Have you seen that one?
Yes.
With
Yes.
John Cusack?
Yep.
He does ultimately win her back, though.
I know. That's such a cuck fucking ending.
That was Jack Black's big breakout role.
Indeed.
That was a good movie.
It was a good
Stand by
movie.
it. Stand by it.
Anyways, fucking Midsommar. The other big thing I wanted to point out is that, and this is like what, this is very surface level, but it just tickled me pink even the first time I watched through it. Entire film is in fucking daylight. There are no like dark scenes hardly, other than like just a couple inside buildings. Very, very few. And it's just like the former internet pirate in me is like, oh yeah, that'd have been watchable, Wouldn't have had a whole bunch of fucking blocky, poorly rendered, dark colors.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Well, it's set in Scandinavia.
Fucking Abbey Files.
Set in Scandinavia during the summer solstice, which they're far enough north that it actually doesn't get dark that much there during the summer, which is weird. It must be weird. But not only
Things
is
drive
it,
you crazy, man.
I think during the winter months.
That too.
I don't know what their suicide rate is there, but I know that, people who go through seasonal depression, they get it worse the farther north you are.
Oh, for sure. It's just dark all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Which I feel like, that would be tough. That would be a little tough. But not only is the film like always daylight in the film, it also has like this overexposed quality to it, where it's like washed out with light, kind of.
Yeah, and then, all the cult members are wearing these like, traditional rural rustic like folk garb that are all white, that just like even adds even more to just like everything being so overwhelmingly bright and visually stimulating.
Which I did actually look up some of like the midsummer festivals that they actually have in this region of the world, and a lot of it's very accurate. A lot of flowers, like the wreaths of flowers in their hair, whatever you call that.
Yeah, I don't think they're big on the human sacrifice though, but
Not that we're aware of. But one thing that was notably different is they don't really wear all white like that in the photos I saw. But other than that, fairly accurate.
It's a bummer.
And I might as
I
well
like the
get
white
this out of the
robes.
way right now, but you've seen the original Wicker Man, right?
Of course.
You can't watch this movie and not draw some similarities to that. That's like the original. That's like the high peak of folk horror cinema in a lot of
Absolutely.
ways.
I actually watched some like Eli Roth list of films that he'd selected as influential, and it was like a giant Eli Roth circle jerk. But he did bring up Midsommar in it, and of course, drew the comparison to the Wicker Man. But then he also, of course, and I really want to know, did like Ari Aster like give him consent to say this, but said that the Green Inferno was a major inspiration for it. The Green Inferno being, kind of like Eli Roth's ode to cannibal holocaust or whatever, but like
Interesting. I have not seen that one.
I mean it's it's whatever.
Interesting. I mean, I saw that. Well, it's interesting. Ari Aster doesn't actually point to the Wicker Man very much, but I mean, it's an obvious influence, right? In the Wicker Man, the girl gets crowned the May Queen,
Yep.
and also the ending is very similar, where the main character gets put in a giant Wicker Man and burned alive. So,
Indeed.
and also, it's a cult. I think that one's set in the Scottish Isles, but a lot of it is aesthetically very similar. But I fucking love the Wicker Man.
Yeah, something about fucking like rustic rural white folk having crazy cults is just so appealing.
It is. And I was reading a quote from Jordan Peele, and he was basically saying that in his mind, Midsommar knocked the Wicker Man off of the top position of like folk horror classics, which
That's a
they're
big
both-
statement.
they're both right up there for me. And Ari Aster, they confronted Ari Aster with that quote, and he was like, he's lost all credibility. Just kind of fun. He's just being humble. But
That was, I mean, yeah. Even if you are joking, I mean, it's like a little, it's a little mean to say, but yeah, that's funny. Good for him for keeping himself grounded.
yes. But I mean,
are there
I
any
think,
other examples of folk horror that you can think of? I can think of one that I actually really enjoyed. It's a bit long, but The Apostle on Netflix is pretty good.
okay, I haven't seen that one, but I watched one
It's got
that
my
kind
man
of
Dan Stevens.
one that kind of comes to mind, and I don't know what the boundaries of folk horror as a subgenre,
Just
where
pretend
those
like you
boundaries lie. But have you seen The Ritual on Netflix?
do. Yes.
I really enjoyed that one, where it's these guys. You've seen that one, right?
Refresh my memory. I watched a lot.
It's kind of like has a little bit of a Blair Witch vibe, but these guys are like hiking
Oh.
through the woods and they go to the cabin and then
Yeah, and
there's
that
like,
one dude twists his ankle like a fucking total chud. He's being like a giant baby about it.
Yep, and then
Yep.
there's like witches or something, and that one
Yeah.
was actually really good.
That was
I
pretty.
enjoyed
That was pretty fucking sweet. I actually like that movie a lot too.
I
Both of
enjoyed
those are
that
on
one.
Netflix.
Also had some occult kind of pagan ass vibes to it.
Yeah, I dug it.
But I don't know what classifies or what's the word I'm looking for? What qualifies something as being folk horror? I guess some sort of like pagan cult vibes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just has to have like any kind of like folklore influence to it. So like
Okay.
it'd be presumably regional, or like have the ability to be change regionally.
Sure, that makes sense. So I, like many people of my generation, actually watched the Nick Cage Wicker Man before I saw the original.
Same.
Which sometimes when I talk about the Wicker Man, people think that's what I'm talking about, which I'm not. ever.
Not
Almost
the bees. Not the bees.
But I mean, that one's, it's kind of forgettable, but it is remembered for its novelty value and is almost looked upon as a comedy at this point. But when I watched the original one later on, I was blown away. Like, it is so fucking good. And I'd like to, that should be a file flick at one point. We can't do
It
it
shall.
anytime soon because it shares, even
Entirely
though it
too
is
much with
totally
us.
different than Midsommar, it does share a lot of the same similar themes, I guess.
Maybe it'll be a side flick. Who knows?
That'd be a pretty big side flick.
Yeah, you gotta pay extra for that one. It's gonna cost you.
But one thing that makes this one, like when you watch that, you feel like they're all tripping on mushrooms. But I don't think it's like explicitly
It's
stated.
not as in
like,
your face. Like these people are doing psychedelics.
in this one, they're doing psychedelics the whole fucking time. And there's a lot of drug content in this film, really.
Which, like, dude, adds like to the like whole. That's like what they do, right? Like, so much intensity. But yeah, I guess just like kind of jumping into the plot of the film, you know, as we've like dipped our foot in and pulled back out. So yeah, you know, Danny's family all dies in a murder suicide. Very, very sad. Her boyfriend Christian and some of his guy buddies were planning to go with their Swedish exchange student friend.
Pele, right?
Yes. And Christian is her boyfriend, if I didn't say that. To
Pele is
attend,
creepy.
he is a little creepy. And he reminds me of just like so many fucking weird people I met at like college parties and bars.
Yes, or it's like, why are you smiling? No, you should not be smiling.
You
right
should
now.
not be smiling right now. Yeah. Too much smile. But they're gonna go to Sweden to attend a midsummer celebration in his commune in rural Hälsingland, Sweden.
There you go. And
Yeah,
it's
struggle with
cult.
that.
What is this cult called? I think they're like the Haga or something like that.
Harga.
Harga. And yes, and then so Christian, he's just basically broken up with his girlfriend. They've been in this kind of essentially codependent relationship. Her name's Danny.
Well, they haven't broken up yet. Like, he was intending on doing it.
They're
but
trying to
then-
break up. It's like an extended breakup where you just can't quite fucking totally pull out.
I mean, I get it. Like, her entire family died. Like,
That's rough.
you would be the world's biggest asshole for breaking up with somebody then. Like, right then.
You're stuck for at least 6 months, buddy.
And even you are going to be an asshole to like everyone in her friend circle, even at 6 months. You know, like you're
Correct.
going to be banished for life.
That's tough. That is tough.
It's a rough situation to be in, but he makes the wrong decision ultimately. And like, if it was me, and this is how I would have probably played it, is just like, you know, don't break up with her, but don't bring her with you on this trip. You know, like,
Right.
you're
I
adding
mean-
a party to the party. It's
She's
Like-
gonna bring down your trip, bro.
dude, none of your bro friends are bringing their girlfriends. Like, you're gonna be the dude who does that. Like,
That's kind of my general philosophy. If no one's bringing their girlfriends or wives, don't be the one.
don't be the one.
Don't be the one. But yeah, Danny's played by Florence Pugh, and Christian's played by Jack Rayner, both Brits. And Pele's played by Wilhelm Blomgren. Then they have their friend Josh, who is kind of like, he's going on all these people are going on the trip. Josh is going there to study Midsommar for his graduate thesis. Christian's also trying to write his graduate thesis. Josh is played by William Jackson Harper. And then we have Mark, the eyebrow guy, played by Will Poulter. Who he looks exactly like Sid from Toy Story.
Oh my god, he does.
He looks like he's
like
just
an
gonna
adult
like
Sid.
torture some toys.
Yeah, he's
And
kind of
it's-
like our like comic relief a little bit. You know, he talks
He's the
a lot.
clown.
He's the clown.
He's the fool, quote unquote. Which, you know, later on they play a game called Skin the Fool, which comes into play. But
Oh yeah.
if that's gives you any hint of what happens to that dude, and I did. When I thought he looks like Sid from Toy Story, I had to Google it just to see if anyone else had that idea, which of course they had, and he even had dressed up like Sid for some event because he is Sid from Toy Story.
You've been on like a big facial association thing. He sent me a fucking picture of the dude from The Thing with the stomach teeth that bites, the guy. And he pointed out the guy, it does look a lot like Dean Ween from Ween.
I love Ween.
Yeah, I love Ween too. Dude, it's while we're doing this facial thing, Jack Rayner looks like Chris Pratt and the dude from Avatar had a baby.
Yeah. He does look a lot like Chris Pratt. Honestly, I've never seen Avatar, and I don't think I ever will at this. I hate to be.
Why are you not going to pay homage to James Cameron's masterpiece?
I hate to be that person. Like, I hate people who are like, I'm never going to watch Star Wars, or I'm never going to watch The Shining. It's
That's
like,
a pretty douchey thing to say.
Fuck you. You suck. Even though George Lucas also sucks, so I kind of get it.
Always. I had to get that one in.
And I'm never going to watch the new Star Wars movies.
They're not very good.
I'm just not going to. But I'm never going to watch Avatar either.
Okay,
I'm
why?
just not.
Why? Since we had to hear how you're never going to watch it. Tell me and the audience.
How many times do I have to watch remakes of Dancing with Wolves with new titles and characters?
I mean, this one was a visually stunning masterpiece.
Does it hold up? CGI doesn't hold up.
All I'm saying is,
and I don't have.
You have
3D
made
glasses.
Avatar references to me. You have made it, and I just assumed you had seen the film because the reference was so accurate.
Well, I know what they look like, and oh god. But yeah, they all decide they're going to this, basically to Pele's weird commune family. I'm not gonna say they're weird.
They're a commune, and we can say communes are weird. We're allowed to say that.
Communes are weird. I mean, there's something romantic about it, but they always kind of end up like Jonestown, don't they?
Like in mass suicide,
or do we just not hear about the successful ones?
I think that there's sometimes communes that run for a while without issue. I feel like I've met an adult who grew up in a commune and was in college or whatever. But sometimes you get Rock the Row communes and you get Jonestowns and you get, I guess, Heaven's Gate. Were they a commune or just a cult? Were they all living together?
They were all living together.
Yeah,
I don't know where the line there is fuzzy. I don't know where you draw that line, but I think they were both on some level. I mean, a cult. I think all cults are kind of communes, but maybe not all communes are cults. Is that how it works? Is that the distinction?
I don't know. I don't know if those lines have formally been drawn, but I think you're onto something there.
But I mean, one of the themes of this commune in this movie is that there's not enough people, so they have to inbreed.
I mean, they don't have to inbreed.
They do, though, because
all
of their oracles, they believe that the inbred people are less clouded by human rationality, so they're closer to God.
Which really just means that they fucking have an extra chromosome and their brains don't work as well.
Something like that, but they believe maybe it works better.
Yeah, I understand, but
all right, we'll get into it. I don't want to blow my load yet, but
I mean, we're already into it.
Man, when that person's finger painting, I guess we could just talk about our favorite.
Just a little bit.
But anyway, they all essentially, they invite her. They all go to Sweden. Immediately, we're introduced to Pele's friends, and we're already in this remote field. The whole place.
His brother, or maybe it's his commune brother.
Ingmar.
Maybe.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was his brother. I mean, they're all one giant family.
That was my thought. Was are they actual brothers, or is it just
It's not totally clear, but the first thing that happens when they get there is they all take mushrooms immediately right out the gate, which leads to a really funny scene where they're all tripping and they're lying in the grass, and someone starts walking up and one of them's like, "Oh fuck, it's a new person."
I can't deal with new people.
Yeah,
right
the other
now.
one's like, "I don't want new people right now."
Yeah, it's pretty.
Kind of a fun scene.
Yep.
And then like Danny's tripping and like grass is growing from her hand, and they're all
Which,
one with nature, and it's kind of fun.
like, if you're gonna do psychedelics, you should probably be like in a pretty good, clean headspace before doing it.
Which they kind of talk about that in the movie. She's like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this right now," and then they all kind of peer pressure into doing it. Which I don't know if that was the right move.
And that's the last sober moment of this entire film for her and much of the rest of the group.
Yeah, they just consistently are drugging them with hallucinogens, which leads to some terrifying moments. They get to the compound and basically, like, everyone's all culted out. You know, they're all wearing white robes, and I mean, it looks like a friendly place. If it wasn't for all the murder and weird stuff, like, seems like a pretty good time.
Well,
you know?
when they get there, there's not like active murder going on. When they first get there, there's just like, long banquet tables and food and drink, and all the old and young people are all tripping fucking balls. And it
Loving
seems,
each other.
yeah, it just seems like a little tiny festival off in the woods somewhere where it's daylight,
Those are the
20
best
hours
ones.
a day or more.
It's not Bonnaroo. It's a smaller one.
Yeah, it's not like, yeah. More like a really cool extended family get together.
Exactly, where everyone just does drugs together. There's little kids tripping on acid with
One day.
dreadlocks.
One day.
One day we'll reach that utopia,
Yep.
even if I have to just force my own family to create it.
Even if you have to make all 40 members of your cult yourself.
Correct. I mean, that's why those cult members have some. Why do you think the FLDS has so many wives? It's so they can create more cult members.
That's literally the reason. That
is
and
the reason.
The men just like to have sex with lots of women. But
I support it.
you can do it without, like, being married to a 13-year-old,
Well, that's the part that I have a problem with.
Fucking FLDS, dude. Oh, man. We're gonna lose our one Utah listener.
Sorry, Utah.
Sorry, Utah. But anyways, back to the village.
But yeah, they're all playing this game called Skin the Fool, and they're all running around and having a good old time. And then at one point, we start kind of getting hints that there's some weird shit going on. We see like an inbred child, and there's a bear in a cage.
Yeah, the child is like pretty
Terrifying. That's
pretty
like the hills have
terrifying.
eyes.
I mean, he
Shit.
looks like somebody who just is permanently having the worst allergic reaction of all time.
Correct.
That's how I would describe him.
Yeah, that's fairly accurate. A little bit swollen.
A lot
Then
swollen. A lot
early
swollen.
on, we see a weird painting that like has like pictographs essentially depicting like a girl collecting her period blood and like feeding it to this guy, and he becomes hypnotized and falls in love with her.
So yeah, there's a lot of like, intentionally focused on background art, but also stuff just in the backdrop that like allude to the direction the story is going. One that we like glossed over just because it is like a very inconsequential scene, but now here we are talking about it. Is like Danny wakes up before they go to Sweden, like in her house or apartment, and there's this massive painting like in view on the wall beside her bed, and it depicts like a little, golden-haired child like touching the head of a giant bear.
Yes.
It's actually a super cool looking painting. I was like, fuck, I would rock that in my house.
The paintings are all cool. I want to say the opening, the very first thing you see in the film is like a giant painting that basically, if you were to freeze frame it on that painting, it shows the whole plot of the film. Yeah, but, the period blood feeding to the guy, he becomes hypnotized. There's a little bit of foreshadowing there. All of the paintings are foreshadowing what's going to happen. But yeah, we learned that like in their cult, they believe that every life has 4 seasons. The first 18 years are spring, and then the next 18 years are summer, and then you start working in the fall, and then you become an elder in your final season, and then at that point you're 72, and they say, so what happens at 72? And Pele kind of jokes, but it's not clear if he's joking or not, but he like signals that they kill your ass essentially.
Yeah. They meet another couple there, Simon and Connie, they're some limeys from London. And
Nothing good happens to those people.
So, but anyways, they all eat some mushrooms or whatever drugs they're ingesting at this point, and there begins this like ceremony, a testupa ceremony, where essentially the two elders who are now at the ripe age of 72 have completed their fourth season of existence, commit suicide by jumping off a nearby cliff. And it's like everybody gets in like stadium seating, or not stadium, there's benches, but like everybody gets in flat amphitheater seating around this fucking cliff. These two old people are carried up there on like an Egyptian pharaoh cart, just like people pick it up and walk it over. And then they just jump. And like, it doesn't work for the first guy. Like, he does not succeed. Which, like, if you're going to jump to your death, if you don't do a nosedive, like, you're an idiot.
Right.
Like,
I'm trying to break my neck instantly.
Instantly. If that's, like, what you're going to do, or do a backflip. Either or.
Go out with some style.
So, the group starts freaking out, as I think most people would at this point.
The visitors, right? Everyone
the visitors.
else is like super
Correct.
calm.
Not the cult.
Calm.
The cult, everyone is like, it's just like sitting in church or something.
They're like, yeah, this happens sometimes. Then they get a giant mallet.
And like, you see them walk up with this, and like, I was just like, oh, fuck yeah, they're gonna fucking do it. And the guy is messed up, right? Like, it's not like, he sprained an ankle. It's like a 70-foot cliff.
His leg's broken.
His head's already kind of dinged in a little bit, He'd probably succumb to the elements if they were just to leave him. But do they? No. They Gallagher melon his fucking head.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. It's exactly like Gallagher. It's so messed up, dude.
And of course this freaks the visitors out even further.
And as far as practical effects go, like that was a good looking
head
practical
melon
effect. Oh yeah. I mean, it busts open perfectly. I was literally thinking, like, I wonder how many tries they had to do to like make it burst perfectly like that.
So yeah, they fucking mercy kill this dude with a hammer. And like, how many times do I joke about death by hammer? It's so fucking metal.
It is.
But like, one of the elders explains to Connie and Simon, the Brits, they're even like more freaked out than the rest of the group.
Out.
Yeah, that's the proper response. I think they were doing the right thing, freaking out.
I don't know, man. I would have respected their culture.
And, well, I was going to go on a tangent there. But
keep going.
The elder tells them that it's like a great honor for them to do this. This is like the perfect death is getting your head smashed with a hammer after.
I mean, it arguably better than getting dementia and dying extremely slowly.
Yes, for sure. Do I see the perk of there being a hard stop somewhere? In some societies, I could see why people would extol that virtue. But like me, I don't know. If I get dementia, maybe you just leave me in the woods and we see what happens, right? Like if I come back, it's still your problem. It's like if I could survive in the wild at 80 for like multiple days and come find you, you got to keep me for another year.
Right. Try again next year.
We do it on Christmas Eve every day. See if I come back on Christmas morning. Be a fun family tradition.
It's pretty fun.
Grandpa.
Yeah, that scene is fucked up. They end up burning their bodies on like this funeral pyre, essentially. And this is the first major hint that like this place is weird.
Yeah, our
If
our
you didn't
values
notice,
might
if
not align.
if the white robes didn't and the inbred child didn't cue you in, now you know some weird shit's going on.
Yeah, I mean, if the first if the first ritual you're introduced to at the cool new cult you're spending the weekend at is a fucking double suicide, like you should be questioning how to get out of there.
Unfortunately, they all like hiked in. There's no real good way to escape because
You just
I
wait
mean
till
I could.
everyone passes out and haul ass out of there like a fucking, triathlon runner, athlete, whatever.
Well, at this point, a few of them are trying to leave, and at one point, you know, there's all these like young women there who kind of have their eyes on these guests, and one of them like puts this weird love rune under Christian's bed, and you can just tell like she's got plans for him.
Yeah, it's Pele's communal sister or whatever. But he tells Christian at one point that she's just reached the age where she's allowed to have sex. Which it's like, how young is that here? Like what's your number in this place that allows or encourages people to jump to their death at 72?
It's a good question. That is a good question.
I
Connie and Simon, the British couple who they kind of met at the commune, who are also guests, they try to leave, and they kind of just disappear, essentially. Long story short. Big red flags there.
Well, of course, everybody's like, "Oh, they must have made it back to the road or whatever."
Nope.
Being stupid.
Unlikely.
Unlikely.
We do learn at one point they basically just explain them. There's not enough people there to avoid incest, so they have allowed sex between cousins. But they try to invite outsiders in as essentially breeders when they can. Then we find out that there's like this holy book that they only let the inbred children write because they're closer to God. So they're the oracles. And they basically finger paint some stuff, and it is interpreted by the elders of the village.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, they're all like at this long table, and everyone's drinking juice, this yellow drink. Well, Christian's is noticeably like red colored, and when he drinks it, he gets a pube in his mouth.
Ugh.
That's them casting their weird menstrual blood spell on him. Which I have one friend who talks consistently about how he loves eating girls out while they're on their period. And I'm not trying to judge anybody, but I'm not going to ever try that. If you're into it, good for you. I'm sure it's a good source of iron.
All right. What? Continue as you were.
This one girl's been eyeballing Mark the whole time, and Mark's like the goofy. He's Sid from Toy Story, except he's the comic relief of the group.
He pisses on the sacred tree, which
He pisses on a stump.
It's a felled tree that's on the ground, rotting and dying, but it's
It
like the
upsets
sacred
everyone.
tree.
Everyone gets very upset by that, particularly this one guy.
Dude, decomposers are going to destroy that sacred tree sooner or later.
Well, he's clearly is not much with the ladies, but there's this one girl who's been kind of eyeballing him the whole time, and he's like actually afraid of her, which is kind of funny. But while they're all at this big long table, she pulls him away from the group and says she has something she wants to show him. Well, he doesn't come back. Then later on, Josh, who again is writing his thesis, he sneaks off and tries to take photos of their sacred book, which they explicitly told him not to do. So he's tempting fate there.
Foolish.
Yeah, but essentially he starts taking pictures. He turns around and sees Mark. But it's not Mark. It's a cultist wearing Mark's skin. Mark was the fool, and they skinned the fool. That part's pretty awesome. And then they just hit Josh in the head with a hammer. Another hammer. It's not a death. I don't think it's a hammer death because he dies later. But They fuck them up.
Yeah, I do like the skin face wearing. It's a nice little leather head homage.
That is fun. Leather face.
Leather face.
Get it right.
Yeah.
Most everyone's gone at this point.
Leatherheads is an awful movie with George Clooney. Anyways.
Yeah. Actually, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And fucking whatever that dude from The Office is. John Krasinski.
Jim.
Jim.
He's Jim in my mind.
Yeah, that's all he'll ever be.
Someone once told me I look like Jim, but I think I'm more of a Dwight. But anyway.
Personality-wise, for sure.
But at this point, all that's left is Danny and Christian. The cultists kind of separate them. And Danny ends up drinking this mushroom tea, and she's entered into a dance competition against her will, where they basically say they dance until they all fall down, until they can't dance anymore and just pass out, which, anecdotally reminds me of an Allman Brothers concert I went to where I did the same thing.
You danced until you passed out?
I danced until
over?
I could not dance anymore, and it was so much fun.
Oh, to be young. It just sounds tiring to me right now.
Oh, if you're in the right state of mind.
Exhausting.
I mean, I wish you could have the experience of ecstatic dancing, Andrew.
I've danced much. I love to dance. It's just my knees are going to shit.
I love... have you ever seen Peep Show? This TV show called Peep Show?
Oh, yeah.
I love Peep Show. But at one point, he goes to this ecstatic dancing club called Rainbow Rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to get with the hippie girl. And he's like, they're all breaking taboos. What's the final taboo? Do I have to shit on the floor to make her like me? It's fucking... Dude.
Braden's doing a fucking TV show deep cut episode.
Dude.
Here.
I will say this to anyone who hasn't watched Peep Show. Maybe we do a fucking side flick on Peep Show. But it's like one of the greatest comedies ever made. British TV show.
Anywho,
not well known in America.
Danny wins the competition, and she's crowned the May Queen. And so Pele kisses her as soon as she is crowned, and like you just know Pele's been eyeing that for a while.
Oh yeah, man, Pele seems so nice, and then he kind of turns out to be just a traitorous piece of shit who brought them all to be killed.
In typical cult fashion, Pele had lost his parents. So, like, cults, they target people who don't have families, right? Like, it's just an easier picking. Lower hanging fruit. You don't have to fucking deal with people and their families, with their lawyers and extraction teams. You just they're there. They're yours now.
Less people you have to isolate them from.
And then again, Danny having lost all of her family, it makes her like the perfect candidate to be a new recruit. Not just a breeder, a full-on recruit.
No, very, the breeder in this case is Christian, the guy.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting, well, we're about to get to this part, but they lead Christian away. When they separate them, they put him in this room where they also, like, fill him up with drugs. And essentially, they put him in this barn full of naked women, all chanting and singing some creepy song.
Singing their Avatar songs.
Correct.
Yeah, they're all like holding hands in this like hemisphere-like shape around the woman he's supposed to bang. If she is indeed a woman, again, she might be a girl. Anyways,
I mean, that part aside, let's go on the grounds that she is a woman. Looks kind of fun.
So yes,
I'd be open-minded.
Saying she's a woman, would I be open to having sex while a gaggle of women, surround me and make sex sounds, basically
doing witch
cheering
chanting,
me on?
witch chanting, and dude, one even grabs his ass and is like thrusting his ass.
She works the hips, man. She works the hips. She works the hips. One of them, like, grabs his hand and like makes her, look at her face. And she's, for an older lady, very attractive face.
She's fine.
Yeah, but it probably was pretty exhilarating for that spun out motherfucker to it's like a nice last memory. You get one,
Nut, nut, nut.
But it would be cool to have a crowd cheer you on as you fuck.
That
Why
would be
why is
kind
it
of
why isn't
exciting.
sex a spectator sport?
You're a rock star at that point.
Oh, oh. You get. I do think it's funny, like when the one woman like takes his hand and like gets his eye contact. Like at first, he stops for a second. He's like, "Is this okay? Like, is this? Am I doing good right now?" And or processing the fact that he's now had another party, even more tactily entered.
Yes, it's very interesting, and they're all singing and chanting and doing some weird stuff, and I'm not gonna say it's like ideal, but it's that'd be a novel, fun experience.
So, anyways, Danny, she's been crowned the May Queen. She like walks up and like peeps through the peephole or keyhole, and I just want to say, like, that building had two sets of doors. They could have closed the outer set of doors, and this whole thing wouldn't have happened. But they baited her into it.
They wanted her to see.
She's been getting groomed this whole damn time. But she sees and she like freaks out, has a panic attack or something. She's like shrieking. She's also on a lot of drugs. Keep that in mind. But all of her like, I don't know, whatever you call the May Queen's assistants or whatever, the women who are charioting her around basically like all run to her aid, and then they all start mimicking her cries like in unison, which is like again some weird witch shit maybe. I don't know.
Right. That was all weird.
As a man, it was a deeply unsettling scene.
I don't have any explanation for any of that. I think, maybe that was some kind of metaphor for like, when a girl's friends gather around her and are like, yeah, he is a piece of shit.
Yeah, but like all of you crying in perfect unison together, like you're the Borg or something. Like it's pretty weird.
It is
The
weird.
Borg don't even cry. They're
Well,
too
that's
perfect.
that's kind of what the other women were doing. They were all like basically having like a weird orgasm in unison too.
Yeah, it was a lot of communal interconnectedness going
Hive
on.
mind shit going on.
Yeah. So, anyways, like Christian like does his thing, right? And he try.
He comes harder than he's ever come,
Yeah.
and then he manages to escape.
But he doesn't even put his clothes back on, right? Like he just walks out naked with like not to be too graphic, but what looks like blood on his dick. I'm just gonna like say it, like
Yes.
watching it in 4K. I'm very certain that was a deliberate directorial choice.
The actor Jack Rayner, he like insisted that there be as much full frontal nudity as possible because he wanted to feel the full humiliation of that moment. And he said that he actually felt really even more humiliated than he thought he would. And it was a deeply uncomfortable experience. But yeah, he looked vulnerable.
He looked vulnerable. He looked scared. He is scared.
Dude, his acting was on point. He looked deeply concerned. The whole second half of the movie, he looks very uncomfortable and concerned and confused.
I like the part a little bit before this when like he's like, "What's going on?" or something to like one of the elders, and he just like claps in his face and it like
Yeah, what's happening?
sends out like a shockwave in his reality. So, anyways, he like looks around. He's naked, and I love the architecture in this film. I really do. I just like those like little rustic Swedish angular cabins they have. The Scandinavian architecture, I should say. But
Scandinavian, it's nice. Don't you have like a book on Scandinavian architecture at your house or
I
something?
do. I
that
actually
I've
have a
seen?
couple, but I really like. I like architecture in general, to be clear, but I do like Scandinavian architecture. But he like looks around and like settles on running to like a fucking barn, and like in my mind, it's just like, dude, you might get some ticks, you might get torn up by thorns, but like maybe you just fucking haul ass all the way to the road at this point, like, you know. That's
I
what I
mean,
would do.
he's-
That's what I would do.
He's so fucked up though. Like he's not gonna make it very far. He looks like he's struggling just to like stay on his 2 feet.
Dude, when you're in that kind of position where where the world's got weird and you can barely navigate it, the only correct answer is to run and get as far away as possible.
It is hilarious that like in his post nut clarity, that's when he like really decides it's time to escape.
He's like, I have got to go. He doesn't even know that she's seen him banging that chick yet. You know, Danny
No.
hasn't seen. He has no clue how bad it is.
But when
But
he
anyways-
gets in, when he gets in this barn, he
Well,
finds
before the barn, he finds Mark's leg sticking out of a flower bed, like foot up, which kind of like made me think of God, what's that book from the like '90s? The horror book, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh, yeah.
Reminded me like some of the artwork in that.
The movie wasn't as good as
I know I didn't even watch it. But he goes into the barn, and that's this is like in my mind really like the big climax in terms of the ooky spookies that we're gonna get.
Yeah, this dude's like, I want to say it's Josh, right? He's like splayed, or no, it's Simon.
Josh's leg was sticking out of the ground.
that's
or no,
right.
Mark's
No,
leg
it was
sticking-
Josh's leg. You said Mark, it was Josh. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
But Simon is hung up by like ropes and he is splayed out. At first you don't notice it, but then you realize his entire back has been like opened up like something out of, I don't know. Like it looks like he's been dissected or autopsied and his entire back has been pulled apart by these ropes. And I guess this is an actual torture method where they've removed his ribs essentially or something. And if you watch closely, you actually realize he's still breathing like he's still alive. It's pretty fucked up.
So yeah, that it's called the Blood Eagle.
Oh, God.
Is what
You don't want that to happen.
you don't of all the way because he's still alive. Like they have his like lungs positioned through like with wires and hooks and shit, and they literally are like breathing still to some extent. You know, he might be like on the verge of death, but
His organs are pulsating.
he walks under Simon and like looks up, and Simon's had his eyes replaced with flowers.
Pretty
And then he like
creepy.
looks down and he gets blasted in the face with some fucking voodoo powder.
Yeah, someone blows drugs into his eyes, and when he wakes up, he's totally paralyzed, and he's in a wheelchair. Outside, surrounded by cult members. And then they're doing this other ceremony where like an elder woman announces like they're going to sacrifice 9 human lives today. And some of the cult members are volunteering to be sacrificed as well. So it's not only the outsider guests, but they put all the bodies inside this the yellow sacred temple. And at one point we see this one elder cult member showing these young boys how to like dissect the bear and remove its organs. Well, they put Christian, who's still paralyzed, inside the bear's body.
Ooh, before the bear scene, for the last sacrifice, the May Queen, Danny, is presented with the option of choosing a volunteer from the commune or choosing Christian, who is now... And this is the part that I think is funny, because he's just, like, making this stupid face and can't move in his wheelchair, and he just, like... It's just sinking in that, like, his now ex-girlfriend's about to fucking send him to his doom.
He's gone. He's done for.
But yeah, they put him into a bear.
Which is pretty fun, honestly. He kind of looks like, you know...
And that like touches back to the portrait or the painting at the beginning of the film of the girl touching the bear's head.
Yes, and they put him and all the other dead bodies essentially in this sacred temple made out of wood. It's a big yellow triangle.
Dude, they
Yes.
turned some of them into like rag dolls.
Well, that was Mark.
Mark,
Because
Mark.
they had skinned him alive and someone was wearing his skin. Well, they stuffed him full of straw.
He even
like
had a
a-
jester hat.
Yep, they put
With
the
bells.
gesture hat on him
Yeah.
because he was the fool. And then, yeah, they light the whole sucker on fire. Everyone's pretty much dead in there already except for Christian in the bear outfit who's paralyzed and 2 of the cult members who start screaming and as
Well,
they're burned alive.
So one of them takes a tincture that they say will cause you to feel no pain, and then they give another tincture to the other one. They say this will cause you to feel no fear. So the one who didn't get the pain is the one who screams. The other one just kind of sits there. The one who got the pain medicine just like looks over and catches on fire.
And then in the final scene, where it kind of zooms in on Danny's face, and she smiles and looks happy.
For the first time in the whole fucking movie.
First time in the whole movie, which I have to venture to speculate that the symbolism that's going on here is that she is kind of, that's her getting over the relationship. She kills...
And her starting her sweet new life in a fucking cult.
She kills him and kind of by extension all of his friends who are her friends, who are like in any relationship that's that serious. Usually when you lose your partner, oftentimes you're losing a good portion of your friends too.
For sure, but just some thoughts. Like, you join this cult, right? And you know that people are periodically sacrificed like once a year or whatever. So like that's like unsound decision making, because like, you might not be lucky enough to make it to 72. You might be next year's sacrifice.
Seems like once you're in though, most of them volunteered, right?
They did. But like that's the thing, is the cult's gonna make you think it's a good idea to like be burned alive voluntarily at 25.
Well, that's true. I mean, I guess if you do enough mushrooms, it might start sounding like a good idea. I don't know.
Possibly. But holy shit, that's Midsommar, man. We were fucking going there. I didn't even know if we were ever gonna land that plane.
Fun movie. I mean, well, it's a long movie. There's a lot to cover. Again, it's the short version. The theatrical version's well over 2 hours. Originally, I think the movie was going to be like 3.5 hours long. It was just short of being 4 hours, which Ari Aster has said his next film's going to be 4 hours long. Which I don't even know if we mentioned that, but he is working on a new one starring Joaquin Phoenix. And, he says he wants it to be 4 hours long, but I have a feeling, studio pressures might trim that down a little bit.
Just make it 11 hours long.
I kind of hope that it's not 11 hours long. There's only so many hours in the day. Make it an HBO series at that point, please.
It's like a full day.
I mean, that's like an HBO series, but, make it episodic.
Dude, it could have been very cool in an episode format. But I don't know. I also... And not everybody has this opinion, but I like something neatly packaged into like 2 hours,
I get that.
It's not as binge worthy. You can't like occupy long periods of your life with it like you can Game of Thrones or whatever. But like, there's something to be said about like the art and making something cohesive and complete in a 2 hour span, 2.5 hour span. So brevity is the soul of wit. Put a little Shakespeare in there.
There you go. I mean, there is an art to trimming off the fat and kind of... What was that Quentin Tarantino movie that was inspired by The Thing? Which one am I thinking?
Hateful Eight.
The Hateful Eight. Interestingly enough, for the director's cut of that, they like added in all the cut scenes and made it into 4 episodes. Which is kind of a neat thing.
I like that.
And then released that later on. But that's Midsommar, folks.
Yeah. As always, like, subscribe, tell a friend, leave a comment, check out our Patreon, send us an email or a Facebook message or an Instagram DM.
We're going to be putting the Altered States episode on the Patreon this week, folks. We had a lot of people ask us, where's episode 1? Well, it's on the Patreon now.
Content! Anyways, thank you guys so much, as always. It was fun.
Keep on flicking flickers.
Flick that flick.
Flick it.